Welcome to the Gail Estella survival podcast. Yeah. Where pain becomes purpose, no fear, no remorse. Say it again. Through the pain, through the fire, through the worst of my day. We made it. I found purpose in the breaking. Right there. Survival isn't a whisper. I know. Girl, if you listen, you survive. Still breathing, still alive. God never wastes the hurting. Every chapter had a rolling time.
This is Gail Estella, and welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast.
From pain comes purpose. No fear, no remorse. Survival isn't a whisper. Through the worst of my day. And the breaker isn't no whisper. It's raw.
Hello, everyone. This is Gail Estella, and welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Here's where we turn pain into purpose, because survival isn't a whisper, it's a roar. And before we get started, there's a couple of things that I would like for you to do for me. Are you following me on all of my social media platforms? If not, please do so at Gail Estella. And secondly, where are you tuning in from? I'm here in Aiken, South Carolina. Put in the comment box below where you're tuning in from. And please, will you go in and like, share, and subscribe to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast? And lastly, Through It All. Have you purchased your copy of Through It All? If you haven't, it's not too late. You can go to TrueVinePublisherCompany.org, Amazon.com, or anywhere books are sold. My next guest. I have so many good things I could say about my next guest. She is such an incredible person. I met her when her son Nigel and my daughter Asia was at St. Jude undergoing their cancer treatments. Both of them had brain cancer, and we just instantly connected with each other. And that was maybe 18 years ago. And we still remain friends today. I would like to introduce you to my friend, the person that had my back while we were both fighting for our children's life, the person that I admire so much for who she is and what she is, Miss Nakenya Cartwright.
Hi, Gail.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Finally, we're here.
Finally, we got to do this because we have been trying so many times. So how are you doing today? Again.
I'm doing good.
Yes. You ready?
I'm ready.
I am too. So like I told the audience, we met while we were at St. Jude. Nigel was 12?
Yes.
And Asia was 13. And they both had been diagnosed with brain cancer. And they were both receiving their treatments there. So let's go back. We're going to start with Nigel's diagnosis. Go back to some of the symptoms that he was experiencing before he was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Okay. So Nigel was having problems with headaches, being fatigued. And so we went back and forth to the doctor. And I want to say in the spring of the year, they got progressively worse. So I took him to his pediatrician not the pediatrician, his PCP. Mm-hmm. And he was treating him for allergies and sinus. And so I said, okay, it's allergies and sinus, nothing to be alarmed about. So, of course, me being the mother that I am to support my kids, I was rooting for Nigel to play football. And so I said, well, Nigel, come on, you're going to have to come on and let's get into sports. And so he was playing football and he ended up getting hit during practice. And so from then he complained even more so about his headache. And so I took him back. They reassured me that it was allergies and sinus. Of course, because, with allergies and sinus, people associate really bad migraines and headaches and facial pain with sinus and allergies, because sometimes it can be just that. It can sometimes. But this wasn't Nigel's case. So during the summer, we were doing our summer cleaning per usual each year. And Nigel, he's pretty much a go-getter. So he doesn't mind decorating. He doesn't mind cleaning up. And so I said, Nigel, I said, you're not doing what you usually do. You usually would come in and help me rearrange things and, get things done for the summer. And he said, well, Mama, I just can't. He said, my head is hurting. And so I said, okay. I thought he was just being a boy. So later on, he started throwing up. So I said, well, I think this is on another level. So I'm like, in my mind as a parent, I'm just going through my brain with a lot of questions, trying to make sure I dot all I's and cross all T's, being a mother. And I said, well, no, I think this is something a little bit more serious. So I took him back to the doctor, and he took him in the back, and he used his scope to look in his ears and look in his eyes. And so he said that he was going to turn the light off because Nigel, he didn't want any light. So they turned the light off and closed the door. So I'm thinking to myself, just what's going on? This usually don't happen. So he told me that the doctor told me that he was calling for the paramedics. And so he did call for the paramedics, and we went over to our local hospital. And there they did CT scan. They saw that he had a tumor, but from the way that the radiologist read it, he was saying that it was in the back of the center of his brain. And so I never thought that they were going to come out and give me that news, that he had a brain tumor. Never in a million years would I have thought. I'm thinking maybe sinus pressure, maybe he need glasses.
Yes.
All the things that a mother would, ask herself about her child. That's what I was doing. I was trying to make sure that I had everything planned out and all my questions answered. But I just never thought that it would have been a brain tumor.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Once we went to our local hospital, I didn't know that he was going to have to be transported to another hospital. So it just kept getting deeper and deeper. I just never thought that it would go from home to your local doctor to the nearest hospital. Then you had to be med-vaced to another hospital.
Which was where?
Which was in Jackson, Mississippi, which was 3 hours from where we live.
Okay.
So he had to be med-vaced to Jackson, Mississippi. And so once we got there in Jackson and they sent over his scans and stuff by CDs, the doctor looked at it, and they called for me and my parents to come out. And he already had his screen set up and everything. And I said, okay. We went out to see what he wanted. And I said, what is that? I said, is that my son's head? I could not believe what I saw. It was the size of probably a golf ball and a half size. And when I saw that, I immediately went out because I couldn't believe that he was walking around every day with something in his head that size. So that's why I'd say it just kept getting progressively, the news just kept getting progressively worse. And it just totally knocked me off my feet. I just wouldn't have never thought that, that my son would have been walking around with something that big in his head all the time.
Yeah, for the amount of time that he did.
Yes.
Yeah.
So once we got the diagnosis of the brain tumor, they had to put a tube in once he got there because he had fluid on his brain.
How much fluid?
He had fluid. So they told me that they had to take him up for surgery so they can put a tube in to drain the fluid that's off his brain.
And so what's going on in your head at this time, Kenya?
I just couldn't believe that my child was walking around with something that big, in his brain. I couldn't believe it. Like, how can he function? Like anything could have happened to him. He could have fallen out. He could have had seizures, anything, a number of things could have happened with something being that big, on your brain.
And I'm going to intervene. And it's something you said because, again, the same thing with Asia. When we think about God, and we think about God being in the midst of things, it could have gone so many other ways. And I remember Asia's oncologist saying that we rather find it than it finds us. And that could have been falling out, the seizures, death.
Yes. Yeah. I still saw God's hand in it. Even though my life was turned upside down, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to say. I was just clueless. I was a clueless single parent. Well, after the doctor let us see the CD of the images of the tumor, he said, well, we're going to have to go in and do surgery. I said, okay, surgery. I said, okay, you've already put the tube in. So what's next? He said, well, we're going to have to remove the tumor. And the tumor was not at the back of his brain. It was on the left side. So after removing the tumor, the next question was, what's next? So surely after 6 weeks or a couple months, we ready to go home.
It's going to be over.
It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. I said, ooh, thank you, Jesus. It's going to be all right because we've gotten all those things out of the way. Well, yes.
So let me ask you about Nigel, because he was 12. Did he understand everything that was going on?
No.
Did you tell him everything that was going on?
I did the best I could.
Yeah.
I did the best I could because just think about it. I'm not a nurse. He's still in junior high.
Yes.
And this isn't something that you read about every day or people that you come across every day that something like this has happened. So we're clueless. So surely after you find out, then you start reading and then you start doing research on what it is.
So how did you end up at St. Jude?
Well, after removing the tumor, and they said, well, we want you to understand that we've removed the tumor, but we have to send the tumor off to a pathology report. And then they said, well, we have to find out if the tumor is benign or malignant.
Yes. When you hear the word cancer, tell me those feelings that you experienced.
Ooh. When you think about the word cancer, of course, you think the worst.
Death.
Yes. You think the worst because it's cancer. And even with that, I'm like, well, what's next? You know, if it is cancer, you know, what's next? You know, it's already been a journey, you know. Yeah. So what's next? I don't think I can take anything else. And if it's cancer, they said, well, he's going to have treatment. Treatments? What kind of treatments? Oh, my goodness. I was an emotional roller coaster. I was a nervous wreck. For days, I didn't eat. For days, I couldn't sleep.
I know.
And so after finding out that it was cancer, I had a friend, her son had some type of blood cancer. And her son went to St. Jude. And so she got in touch with me and she said, well, if they saying that it's cancer, please take him to St. Jude for treatments. So I said, well, how do I do that? What to do? And so they said it was going to have to be a referral. And since he was underage, that he would qualify for St. Jude.
Entering St. Jude. Because you walk into the hospital, the grounds are big and pretty, and the big emblem on the front of the hospital. And you walk in. Tell the audience what is it that you see once you enter the halls of St. Jude.
You see different races. You see different children, different illness, amputees, the assistance to getting around, wheelchair, patches, hats, masks, gloves. It's you just don't know what you're gonna eat, and once you get there, you see everybody. It's like, okay, what we're part of this family now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that. And then one thing too, the bald heads. All the kids have bald heads. And you said we're part of this family now. And I always tell people it was like a community of everyone going through the same thing. Each person's child might have been diagnosed with a different type of cancer. And like you said, so many different races, ethnicities, but it was still that common thing Every person's child had
Yes.
cancer.
Yes. Yes.
And the thing about it, the kids, they seem to be okay. But the parents, the solemn look on their faces, the grief on their faces, the sadness on their faces. If you look back on that, was that a traumatizing time for you? Or
Oh, most
traumatic
definitely.
time?
Oh, most definitely. It was most definitely traumatic. It was to me what I call add-on trauma,
So why the add-on?
because just knowing that he had a tumor in his head, and after seeing the images, that was traumatic for me.
And so let's jump ahead to the treatments. The high dose did Nigel receive high dose chemotherapy as well?
Yes, Nigel received was it 6 weeks of high dose radiation, and I want to say we did 2 years of chemo. Yeah, 2 years. And so I didn't think that, because like you said, the word cancer. I mean, had you not had any experience with anyone, being around anyone with it, then you just don't know the medicines, the treatment that they have to take for cancer. So once again, like you say, once you walk into St. Jude and you see bald heads and you trying to figure out, why so many kids doesn't have any hair until.
So can you remember when Nigel's hair first came out?
Nigel hair, it came out maybe after a couple of his treatments.
Of the radiation.
Yes.
Yeah. Whew. And Asia had a long, pretty ponytail. And I would notice her hair shedding. And at night when she went to bed, we were at the Ronald McDonald house at the time. And at night while she was sleeping, I would sweep the hair up and discard it, hoping she wouldn't realize her hair was shedding. And then one day she said, "Mommy, my hair looked like it's getting thinner." And I told her it was. So I cut her bangs for her. And it continued to shed. But she held on to the ponytail, and you probably remember this because with me being a cosmetologist, I was innovative enough. I bought some glue, and I bonding glue, and I bonded her hair to her scalp with the bonding glue. And all of the center was bald, and she would wear different hats, but her ponytail was still there. And I remember, I think she was having a lumbar puncture, and she woke up, and the lady said, "Here's your wig." And they just said, "That's not my wig, that's my hair." It had come off.
Yeah.
And then from there, she, began to wear her hair bald or wear her head bald.
Same difference for Nigel. When he would go to sleep. And when he wake up the next day and it's time for us to roll our sleeves up and go to St. Jude again the next day, and you go in to wake him up and you see hair on the pillowcases, hair on the covers. And I'm saying to myself, so this is really happening.
Yeah.
It's really happening.
How often did you cry?
I can't say that I cried often. I didn't cry often. I think that I became a functioning depressant.
I like that word. So you can honestly say that you were depressed at that time.
A functioning depressant. Yes.
Wow. I cried a lot, but I would do it at night while Aja was in the bed. I would just go in the shower. You know, my hair was short, and I would just go in the shower and allow the water just to fall down on my head, and I would just cry. And then I would get myself together and get ready, like you said, roll your sleeves up,
Yeah.
and get ready for another day.
Yeah.
Because you never know, you never knew what each day was going to bring.
Did not. Platelets.
Yes. White blood count dropping.
Yes.
Having to go into the hospital.
Infections.
Infections.
Cold. Yes.
Yeah. And I remember going back and I remember asking Aja, how did we make it through this? But again, God gives us everything we need at the time to do what it is that we need to get done.
Yes.
Did your relationship change with God? On which spectrum did your relationship change, or did it change?
I don't know if it changed. I can't really say, to be honest, to say if it changed. I just felt like I was a wretch undone. I was a mess. I was a walking mess. I just felt useless. Like, I just felt like I just couldn't, if God didn't move my legs, I couldn't walk. If He didn't move my arms, I couldn't move them. So I was just living from minute to minute, second to second. If I didn't wake up the next day, that would have been all right with me.
I can remember at one point in time, we both stayed at the Target house, in this Target house. And I remember them having a meeting one night. And they were telling the parents that they need to stop going down to Beale Street drinking and taking the children's medication because they needed to be coherent enough to be able to take care of the children. And they wouldn't be able to do that if they were under the influence. And I think for me, because I remember someone calling me, asking me, did I need anything to be able to cope? It was a psychologist. And I knew because of my history, and I also knew that my mind couldn't be altered because if my mind was altered, I wouldn't be able to take care of Aja.
Right.
But I understood how people did what it was that they did in order to cope.
Right.
I really, 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 really understood and still understand.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I never got a chance to turn to any other alternative for coping. Because like I said, I think I'm a functioning depressant. So I just knew it had to be done. I knew he was my son. I was his mother. I carried him 9 months. And he was mine. I knew he was mine. So I was going to have to do whatever it took to make sure that we get through it step by step together.
Yes. You have other children. How was it for you having to leave your children? Because Nigel was 12 when he left. How was your oldest daughter?
My daughter was
Your
16.
Daughter, 16. And then your younger boys.
Yes.
How old were they?
Trey they had to be, they were very young. I can't remember, Gail, but they were very young.
So
Yeah.
how was that for you having to be there at St. Jude with Nigel, and then knowing you have 3 other kids at home that need you as well?
It was traumatic, because if anybody knows anything about me, when it comes to my children, I want to be in full control at all times. Whatever they need, I want to be able to provide it for them. If they need me to be there, I want to be present. So I'm the type of parent, I want hands on at all times. So I don't want to miss anything. But having to be there with Nigel, I didn't know that I would be gone away from my family for 2 years. I didn't see that coming.
Were there feelings of guilt?
Yes. Yes. Even now, I'll ask them, is it anything that you want to tell Mama that you didn't tell me in the past? Is there anything because you can always talk to me about what's going on, because I feel like I missed something. At least I know I did. I missed a lot. And so my brain was wired up and geared up to come home and fight all the battles that need to be fought, do everything, doctor's appointments, dental, just everything that you do for your children, cooking. So, yeah, so it was a lot. It was a lot.
I remember this one lady, she was in the waiting area crying, and I overheard her telling someone that her daughter's menstrual cycle had started and she wasn't there for it, and how she felt so guilty, about not being there. But you brought your kids there because they came to stay with you. I remember seeing them at St. Jude, and other families brought their children in.
Yes. Yeah. So we will look forward to the weekends. If blood work was okay.
Yes.
So when you talk about lab work, that's something else.
Yeah.
That's another added on.
It is almost, Kenya, we know it was a repetitious cycle, but I always like to say, to me, it was like fighting a war, because you never knew what each day would bring, and you never knew what day casualties would occur, because we saw a lot of death as well.
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, like I said, once you enter into the doors of St. Jude and you see different families, and you say to yourself, okay, we're one big family now, but to actually have it to come to pass that a lot of families that I met, they did become my family. I had best friends, close friends. And so, and then once you're there in a community like that, you learn to communicate more. You can communicate with them because they're going to understand the white blood counts. They're going to understand the fever, and they have to go in to get platelets. And, so it's just like you and I, we were like sisters. When I would get Nigel's labs or any type of report, we find each other because we understand each other. We understand that language of St. Jude.
Yeah.
That it's just not a white sheet of paper.
Yes. It's their life.
Yes.
It's their life. And it's almost like you don't want to bring anyone else in, because I can remember family members, even Age's dad, he would call every day, well, what was your white blood count today? And how your plate is looking? And my sister would call, and I would always tell Aja, don't tell anybody anything because they don't understand.
No.
They didn't understand,
No.
and they're not here.
No.
They're not here.
No. No.
So this is sacred. I looked at it. This is sacred ground.
Yes.
It was not for everyone to walk on, to infringe upon. What we chose to tell or what I chose to tell, I did. And sometimes I was like, don't answer that. Don't answer that question.
That's right. That's right.
You're not here.
That's right.
Yeah.
I just felt like in order to be in on this information, because once you hear it, you got to let it register for you. Mm-hmm. So if you were not here when the doctor was giving a report, then I'm sorry. If I feel like talking about it, maybe I will. Mm-hmm. If I didn't want to, I did not.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Yeah. My conversations, it was very short. And then, of course, with Nigel being Nigel, he didn't want me to say much anyway.
And there were maybe 7 or 8 teenagers with brain cancer at the time. And that helped a lot, with the families, again, you say the bond. Mm-hmm. And how about, let's talk about when it was time for the scans, the MRIs. How did you feel the day before when you knew it was time for the MRI, or during the MRI? Were you anxious? Were you nervous, fearful? I used to just pray and just ask God, to allow the scans to be clear. And I could never go into the room because it was so loud, and they had to sit so still, a lot so still. And it was just a lot.
Yes.
And not knowing what the scans were going to show.
Right. Again, you're talking about from finding out that you have a brain tumor to the tumor having to be removed, then finding out if the tumor is cancer or not, then treatments. And then you don't know what treatments, how long you're going to have that poison in your system. Like, how long can his body keep taking the therapy? Sometimes it's not the cancer that, depletes you. Sometimes it's the medicine, the radiation, and the
chemo.
In the chemotherapy, yeah.
Yeah. I did like the fact that St. Jude tried to normalize it as much as they could, by bringing in different activities for the families and different organizations. They had a school, and they were able to, have the speech therapy, the physical therapy, the occupational therapy. Everything was there provided for them. And I'm grateful for that. How do you think it would have been if you weren't in that closed community? The barriers, if you were in that safe space of St. Jude and you had to go back and forth every week or every day to the hospital and then come back home and cook, take care of the kids, and get up and do it the next day. How do you think that would have been for you?
I can't say that I would have weathered the storm. because God, he knew what we needed. And he knew that I needed other people so I wouldn't feel alone.
Right. Yes.
You know, I didn't feel like I was fighting the battle alone. Other people, other kids, you know, other parents, let's say parents, other parents, they were feeling just like I felt. They were feeling lost. They were feeling emotional, sleepless nights. They were feeling resentment. They were feeling all types of emotions that you didn't even know you had.
So were you ever angry with God, Kenya? Did you ever question God?
I don't think I was angry.
Okay.
I don't think. I don't think I was. I don't think I was angry because I know nothing happens unless he allows it to happen. And I remember questioning one time. And when I questioned him one time, the Holy Spirit said to me, my grace is sufficient.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember questioning, and I remember God telling me, trust me. Trust me. And after that, it didn't matter how bad it looked. It didn't matter what the blood counts were or any type of fevers. I just remember him saying, trust me. And I remember this lady asking Asia, did you ever think that something would happen to you? I'm trying to see or if God would heal you. And her answer was, I knew God, I know God is going to heal me. And we just tried to keep that faith that we were there because Nigel was outgoing. He had friends and he talked to everyone. But Asia, she was not that person. And I remember her saying one day, I didn't come here to make a whole lot of friends. I came to get well and go back home. And that was her mission. That's what she felt she needed to do. She communicated with y'all, and it was a couple of other people. But other than that,
I felt like Asia. I felt like Asia. I did. I just wanted to get treatment and go home. Yes. Not knowing that it was going to be a while, but I just wanted to get treatment and go home because surely this is not where I belong.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about the feelings when someone that we were close to and they passed. Because I can remember at the Target house, it was a house on the room next door to us, and they had all these drawings on the door from the little kid, all these drawings on the door. And one morning, we get ready to go to the hospital, and the drawings weren't there anymore. It wasn't time for them to be released. And when you see those things, someone has died. Or they come back and the cancer has came back again. So how do you protect your kid? How did you protect yourself from that? And how did you protect Nigel from that?
Well, once we became one at St. Jude, it was kind of can't get around it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you couldn't get around it. You wanted to be there for the family, for the parents. You wanted to be there to hold their hand and console them as much as they would let us. Yes, because when I think about a few families that I was really, really close to, their child, went to be with the Lord. And people didn't understand the emotions that I had because Nigel was still here. But the other kids, we were just like family. And the hurt and pain that you feel, the absence from not seeing that child not coming to your room, they wanting the sweet cornbread that they're going to get from my apartment. They'll come knock on my door because they know I've cooked something. And the kids, it's like they became mine. And some people will say, well, why did you feel that way? Your child is still here. Well, I just feel like I'm cut from a different cloth. I'm not a selfish person. Because I feel like when you lose, I lose.
Yeah.
When you're hurting, I'm hurting.
Yeah.
I just don't have control over the future. But
because basically all the teens that were there at the time that we were congruent with, Nigel is the only one that's still living. Scans are clear. No more cancer. You get to go home. Because we were the last ones to go. Y'all got to go home before. I think you went home before we did. But you got to go home. How was returning back into the general population for you?
Well, I thought that I can come home and close my front door and hibernate for a couple years.
Years?
Yes. I'm a parent of 4. And so the kids they were pulling, they needed me. I wanted to be available. I wanted to take care as much as I could from the house because I didn't want to, I just wasn't ready for people yet. It was like I felt like I needed time to breathe, time to sleep, the times that I couldn't sleep, time to think about, okay, what's next? Because my life is turned upside down. So I don't know what's next. Because mind you, my life was traumatized.
Yeah.
And I don't know, is it something about trauma that sticks with you? Because now everybody, all the kids are saying that they have a headache, we go into the ER. Anything wrong with their arm, we go into the ER. I was an ER mom for a long time.
I can remember Asia's pediatrician telling her that now when children come in with a headache, he immediately gives them the MRI. Because the question was, why didn't you do this before? Why did it take so long? And it's the system, the healthcare system, the money, insurances, and people are dying. Kids are dying and not being diagnosed. And then even I think sometimes the biases and disparities among Blacks. If you hadn't been as proactive as you were, or me as proactive as I was, and Aja's dad, anything could have happened. It could have been that seizure. It could have been them falling out.
Yes.
If we would just listen to what they told us.
Well, Nigel, come to find out, he was having seizures. It was a different kind.
Okay.
It was the kind that they had to hook him up to all these different wires and stuff to see what was going on. And he was actually actively having seizures. They just wasn't what you call the grandma. So you're back home. Nigel is cancer-free. It's been 18 years? Yes, ma'am.
It's been 18 years. How old is Nigel now?
Nigel's 29.
Nigel's 29. Yes.
Yeah.
So do you still worry about the cancer coming back, Kenya? Do you worry about the cancer coming back?
I don't.
Good.
I don't.
Does he ever talk about it?
Every now and then we'll both talk about it. But I don't even think about his cancer coming back at all.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing. The young man that he is now, going through cancer, and his story is his story to tell. And when we talk about the radiation and the chemo and the residual effects, and you don't have to give specifics, and you don't even have to answer this question if you choose not to. But do you see any residual effects from the treatments of the cancer?
Most definitely.
Or the cancer?
And the doctors, they will tell you that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They will tell you the possibilities.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you have to sign out on those forms.
Yeah.
Stating that you understand the possibilities.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But through it all, he survived.
Yes.
He's still here. And that's such a blessing. And when I think about him, and I always tell God, it doesn't matter, or it didn't matter whose child survived. But as long as I get to see one of those kids survive cancer, that's enough for me. That does my spirit good. So how are you now, today, as far as, and we're going to have a part 2 to this, but how are you now with everything you've gone through with Nigel, having the time at St. Jude, going through the depression? Has any of that eased up for you? Is any of that better? Can you breathe a little bit more now?
Well, I think I would probably be selfish if I say I could. And I don't want to seem ungrateful or selfish. Mm-hmm. So I would say, yes, I can breathe some. Because I don't have to get up at 5:30 in the morning on a schedule. I can breathe now at 5:30 in the morning. I can rest. And I can see my kids when I get ready. Mm-hmm. I don't have to wait for a weekend visit. I can see them as often as I would love to.
That's beautiful. I'm glad. Well, I think we covered a lot today. Is there anything that you would like to say for a mother that's watching this, a mother of a sick child, maybe a mother that her child may be getting ready to go to St. Jude, or a mother that their child has been diagnosed with cancer? Is there anything that you would like to say to them?
I guess my advice would be, people paint things to be one thing, which they aren't. So just go in ready to fight, because when you're in denial about things, it makes things worse. So just whatever diagnosis that they give your child, just get the paperwork and just pray over it and just ask for the Lord's will to be done in our life.
I like that. For the Lord's will to be done in our life. And that's basically all we can do. Thank you. Thank you. We finally got this interview done. I'm so excited for part 2. So I want the audience to pay attention and stay tuned for part 2. This is the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. I would like for you to tell the audience 3 things that has helped you to survive.
3 things that has helped me to survive?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the first and foremost will be the Lord, most definitely, has helped me to survive. My children, because they're my motivation. And friends just like you, Gail.
Oh.
You mean the world to me. as being my friend for so many years, across so many miles. I can say that you never changed on me. I never felt resentment. I never felt that you felt any type of way towards me because my child is living. Because there are cases to where other parents are angry and they resent the child that's living. So you, Gail, you're doing an amazing job with what you're doing to spread awareness with domestic violence, cancer, sobriety. So you're doing an amazing job. And even though things may look dark sometimes, you're doing an amazing job because it's people like me that's all the way from Mississippi that's listening to you. And I will forever support whatever that you're doing. And thank you so much for being my sister/best friend. You are, Gail. You're stronger than what you can even imagine that you are. You're stronger. And I ask myself when I see your podcast, I'm like, how does Gail do it? It takes a lot to get up, ask these questions, and forget about yourself and think about someone else, to help someone else. That speaks volume.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you.
I love you too. Thank you for loving us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.